Well, he gives me the signal. Good evening. Good evening? Good evening. Oh, okay. Just checking. I'd like to call the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District regular meeting of the Board of Fire Commissioners for Tuesday, February 16th, 2016 to order. Please rise for an invocation by Chaplain Chitwood, followed by the pledge.
There have been 6 firefighters pass away over this past month, so let's have a moment of silence for them and their families. Dear God, we come to you this evening and we take moments to reflect on those that have passed away, that served as firefighters. Lord, pray that you might watch over them and comfort them, be with their families, and give them strength. And Lord, we ask for protection for our own firefighters and families here in Bonita. Thank you for the sacrifices they make and the willingness they have to serve. Lord, we ask that you may be with those that serve in this nation to bring us safety, to protect our freedoms that we enjoy here in Bonita. Just watch over them and guide all of those that served in the armed forces. And Lord, grant the commissioners wisdom as they make decisions that impact the lives of others. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any public input, comment on agenda items this evening? Seeing none. Need the approval of the January 11th, 2016 regular board meeting minutes.
I so move. I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval, one motion of January 2016 and current expenditures and ACH payments, acknowledgement of financial report, acknowledgement of wire transfers and transfers between accounts, and budget transfer number 1, the interim reallocation of line items.
So move. I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item, 10 years ago must have been a good time, huh? We hired a bunch of people at the same time. That's great. Congratulations. We got some years of service pins.
Yes, sir. Good evening, and I would like to recognize the following personnel for their, we call them new guys because they've only been here 10 years now. Just kidding with them. But first, I'd like to recognize firefighter Mike Butcher, who's been here for 10 years. He's not here. Firefighter Jared Carey, Lieutenant Andy Cheekus, firefighter Steve Edelsberg, Lieutenant Tom Harrison. Sorry. If you go up front when I call your name, please. Firefighter Dan Jones, firefighter Adam Nolan, firefighter Andy Riggenbach, firefighter Rob Schmidt, firefighter Tony Valentino, and firefighter Alex Wright. I believe we do have some of them are on a call.
Some of them are on the way right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Some of them are on the way right now. I would like to just mention a word about these gentlemen. When you're here for 10 years, you've done a significant amount of service to the community. Also, you've made quite a bit of sacrifice and seen enough calls and enough emergency responses to actually know what you're doing. So I would like to thank these gentlemen for their hard service and their dedication. And it makes it easy for me to serve with men like this. So thank you. There are a few firefighters that are actually on a call right now that are on this list. When they come in, Chairman, if we wouldn't mind recognizing them.
Absolutely. The first 10 is the toughest, guys, so. Next item, Commissioner's business. Commissioner Casilla?
Do you want to discuss our traveling up into Tallahassee at this time?
Yeah, you want? Sure.
Well, I don't know if everybody's aware that a contingent of commissioners and chiefs and went up to Tallahassee a number of times to try to get our bill passed, and it went through all the committees at that point in time that we were trying to get it through, and it's still going through committees, but it's still in the process, and I just want everybody to be aware that the chief did a great presentation to one of the committees. I was very impressed with what he had to say, and they were impressed with it, and it passed that committee hands down. So just be aware that the chief and the chairman have done a lot of work on this, and I'm very impressed with what they did. It's all for the good of the community. Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to thank all those that attended in Tallahassee, and thank you for your efforts. Fine job.
Thank you. Commissioner Forbes?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Murphy? Commissioner McClure?
No.
No? I'd like to bring something up from something we discussed during that very sad time of the loss of Paul Phillips. And at that time, we had talked about memorializing him with the training center. And I just wanted to find out, or at least get a consensus on what direction we're going to go with that and start planning. And maybe you have, and you know, it just has fallen through the cracks, but I want to stay on top of that and make sure that we have some type of a time frame for the family.
Yes, sir. We are actively engaged in the process of creating the memorial for Captain Phillips. I just received a quote from a plaque we're looking to do similar to the one we have with Cecil Harvard up front. And at such time, we do decide to have the event, the dedication. I will certainly inform the board. It shouldn't be too far from now, but I want to make sure we have everything put together.
I guess the thought that was in my mind is we would want to do it before it gets really ridiculously hot.
Yes,
To do a ceremony out there would be more comfortable for the family and for everybody involved to do it before, May or June when it's, uncomfortable.
Yes, sir.
All right, and the other thing that I wanted to mention is that, and I know I keep bringing it up, but I keep seeing the number of calls that come through on false alarms, and I wondered where we stood on if we're looking at a policy to start at least costing the largest offenders should start having to pay something for this, because every time I've pontificated about this for 5 years, and every time a truck rolls out, we've got people going out, we're putting lives in danger, and it seems to me that we get a significant number of the same places, the same time, and I'm sure Fire Marshal Hernandez can tell, he'll be able to tell us what, what the real numbers are. But I just wondered where we are on some type of a policy to, I don't want to be heavy-handed, but I also know that if there's no consequence, this stuff just keeps going on and on and on, and it's like we tell them, well, you can't do this anymore. But I think when you get 2 or 3, or however many you get in a month, that when you start getting a ticket for non-compliance, then I think it gives you a little bit more of a motivating factor to get it fixed. So,
yes, sir. That has not been lost. We have been investigating that, and we do have some models that we're going to be utilizing, and I have directed the fire marshal to come back for the next board meeting with a draft for the board to take a look at before the next board meeting to actually implement it to policy, should the board so desire.
thank you. I just
Chairman
wanted to.
Bowman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to support you on that very strongly, because I've been looking at the same thing, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah, thank you, because it's, and unfortunately, not to beat a dead horse here, but it seems like it's the same people all the time, and we have to roll a lot of equipment every time that alarm goes off, because the one time we don't, the place will be on fire. So I just feel that I think it's important, and we don't have to make money on it. What I'm trying to do is deter all these false alarms, so.
Mr. Chairman, last time we spoke about this, I asked to see some log, a record of who the repeat offenders are, so we can get a sense of what's happening out there. Would it be possible for us to ask the chief and his staff?
Well, I think they know who they are.
Well,
right?
I'd
yeah.
like to see who they are.
I mean, I'm sure we'll get copies of that, but I think that, you can pretty well, any given month, look down the call list, and if we've been there 3 times the same month, okay, you can be there 3 times the same day, and I can understand that because it takes more than a day to get it fixed. But when you're there 3 and 4 times the same month, that means that you haven't fixed it. So, at least in my humble opinion.
Yes, sir.
Chief, will we all get to see that list?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
That's all I have. Next item, under new business, resignation of Bob Patterson, Commissioner appointed trustee on the General Employees Pension Board and the Firefighters Pension Board. My understanding that he's resigning because he's relocating.
Yes, sir, he is.
And we need to start a process to find a replacement for him, which is our pick, the board's pick. And we probably need to start a process to advertise it and get somebody in here, hopefully. I know the last time we did this, we were thinking how we were going to interview all the people, and there was one. So, but anyway, we need to get that process started. So,
Can I comment, sir?
yes.
Right now, what Jessica has set up is we had planned on advertising to take applications prior to the March board meeting. And during the March board meeting, the board should be able to have, of course, after we send the applications to the board will have an opportunity to review the applications and potentially interview the candidates or talk to the candidates prior to the March board meeting would be one suggestion of a efficient way to do this.
The question I have with that, if we haven't advertised it yet, because the February meeting was moved later into the month, the March meeting is going to come around pretty quickly, and I don't know how long you advertise the position, but is that enough time to advertise and get candidates in here between now and the March meeting? Because we're having this meeting a little bit later, and the March meeting will come around in less time than it normally would if it had been on a regular schedule. So I just want to make sure that that's not an issue.
I do believe the opportunity is about 2.5 weeks for applicants to review as soon as we put the advertisement out, to review the advertisement and put in their application.
If that's sufficient.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we enlist the services of the Chamber of Commerce to assist us in locating some possible talent. I'm sure they'd be glad to help us.
It's always difficult to fill the unpaid positions. Okay, any further discussion on that? The next item is the capabilities and purchasing options for a new ladder truck.
Yes, gentlemen. We've been reviewing the necessities of having to purchase a new vehicle or an apparatus for our Station 6. Now, Station 6 is going to come online in 2018 or 2017. Well, what that means is that it takes about a year to build a new apparatus, specifically a ladder truck. We believe for the best coverage in the district, we should have purchase a truck company, not necessarily for that station out here, but in order to have 2 trucks in the district. Now, that being said, we had 2 options to purchase a 75-foot truck or a 107-foot Pierce truck. Initially, I was under the impression that we would be able to get away with or get by with another 70-foot or 75-foot.
What is the one we have now? It's a 75.
70-foot, yeah, truck company.
Right.
However, when we started looking at the district and the capabilities in our last ISO rating, we believe that we did not get full points for our aerial apparatus operations. So we believe that now is the opportunity to purchase a ladder that will give us the maximum amount of points for ISO. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Giuliano, who can explain a little bit about our decision and what it means to the district.
Yes, when we did our last ISO review, at that time, we were lacking in points for moving up in a score from a 3 to a 2, and a lot of those points came from the ladder truck. Last year, when we did it, we earned 76.95 points. To get to a classification 2, we need 80 points, so we got to make up 3.05 points.
Will that truck do it?
That truck won't do it alone, but with everything else we're doing, I'm positive that we will get to a 2. What we need out of an apparatus is the number of ladder service companies, the height of the aerial ladder testing, the equipment carried on the ladder trucks is compared with the number of needed ladder trucks and service trucks and an FSRS, which is a fire suppression rating schedule, equipment list, which we have. Ladder trucks must meet the general criteria of NFPA 1901. That's in here. I can read it to you if you need. Basically, they say the number of needed ladder trucks is dependent upon the number of buildings, 3 stories or 35 feet or more in height. Buildings with a needed fire flow greater than 3,500 gallons per minute. The response distance to built-up areas, the method of operation, and the response outside the city. They said 2 years ago, for maximum credit in this schedule, 2 ladder companies are needed in the New York district. So even 2009, the prior, they recognized we needed 2 ladder companies. What we're going to get this time, we didn't get last time, we're automatic aid with North Naples, North Collier. They have a ladder truck stationed toward the beach. We'll get we'll get a portion of that credit. We automatically get a portion of Estero ladder truck. They have 4 ladder trucks in Estero. Greater Naples has 3 ladder trucks. We feel that if we buy a new ladder truck, put it out here at Station 4, and put the engine from here out at Station 6, that will give us the maximum amount of points. Anything over 100 feet is the criteria ISO is looking for the maximum points for the ladder company. So it just kind of makes sense.
And where else are we missing points? I mean, where are you going to make up the other?
I've got a thing here I can give to you. Let's see, training, we were 8.19 out of 9. We went to a new software where we'll be able to record better. We should get a 9 out of 9. Our deployment analysis, we don't have a whole lot we can do with that. That was only 3.58 out of 10. But with our Station 6 that we're putting up, and possibly the beach, if that happens or not, but with those extra people there, that should help us somewhat there.
So you're confident that we'll make it to a 2?
Yes, sir, I am. I can go over everything.
No, I just,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess at the end of the day,
We've got a list of things we were deficient in. A lot of them don't cost any money, just a change in software or things that we can do a little differently. But every item that we were deficient in our last review, we're correcting, or as best we can correct. So it's in my opinion that everything we can do, we'll get to a 2.
Commissioner Murphy?
I have a question. If you do all the things you're planning on doing,
Mhm.
is it possible to get to that 2 with a 75-foot truck versus a 107-foot truck?
We don't know because ISO used to do their inspections every 10 years. They've made it every 5 years. So they're so busy that they won't do hypotheticals. And I can run the numbers, but a lot of it's little above us where we can't, it's kind of like chicken bones throwing them down. We're not sure why they give us some of the things they give us and take us away. We're looking at other districts, and we're not sure why they got theirs. We could probably find out, but I can't say, hey, we're going to put a 75-foot ladder out here. Is that going to be enough, for instance? They don't deal in hypotheticals. So my suggestion is we know what we're deficient at. We can do as best as we can. But not only that, between the 75-footer and the 107-footer, we've had our crews go out and do a report for us, and they started taking shots all around, what they call, when they set the truck up and set the ladder up, we call that taking a shot. Well, they went all over the district, and they comparing a 75-foot more to a 107-foot, and the 107-foot, of course, it can get us a lot more areas than we could get with a 75-footer. It should help out in our response, our rescue, and a lot of different things besides, you know.
The size of the truck, I know one of the pluses with Truck 25 is that it can get into some places that a tandem axle or a larger truck will have difficulty with. Is this,
Correct me if I'm wrong, the new truck that we would get would be the same chassis as our engine 22. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the same chassis as our engine 22. The larger truck could be the same chassis as that also.
so adding the larger ladder wouldn't add another set of axles and make it
No,
a
sir.
bigger turning radius and, okay.
And we've
That's-
taken engine 22, which is usually stationed out in Station 2's district out by the beach, and we've got another report of tight spots. There's some tight spots in the district, but really nowhere that we don't feel comfortable with using that truck. So,
Any other questions for the chief?
Chief, what other functions are the ladder truck other than rescue?
ladder trucks, and for ISO purposes especially, ladder trucks are for ventilating, forcible entry, they're for, I'm sorry? Search and rescue. They have a different set of tools than a engine would have. So that's why they have ladder trucks as part of the ISO requirement. So that when you have a district, especially like ours that have gallons per minute requirements and high-rise over 3 stories, they require that we have these apparatus. And the size of our district and the population and all those things combined, they say we need 2. We've only got 1. But it is used for other things besides just an elevated stream.
And you're saying this 100-foot, 107-foot ladder can get us to the 3rd story? Is that what you're saying?
No, sir, there's, I'll give you this report. Well, let me read one for you, let me see. Here's one, Beach and Tennis Club. With a 107-foot ladder, we would be able to reach the top floor balcony. With our current apparatus, we can only effectively reach the 6th floor. That's at the Beach and Tennis Club. Here's the terraces. Our current truck cannot reach the top floor, the upper middle section, because of the drive-through canopy of the terraces. Target hazard, well, I guess we can reach it with this one. They got a picture of it. Let me see.
Well, we do have a building moratorium in the city at 75 feet, right?
Yes, sir, but it's a lot
It
of
doesn't go
places.
straight up, though. I mean, you got the
Yeah,
angle, right? That's
because of
where
the canopies and things, you can't get close to them.
That's what I mean. That has to be, obviously, I'm not, you're not running it up straight, I understand that, but,
Well, even if we can get next to the buildings, it'd be better. But a lot of places, we can't get next to the building because of the portico, you know, the canopies out front and things like that. The way they have even their landscaping and things like that. So you're coming more horizontally than vertically at a lot of the different buildings. Where they've taken their shots here and they've said, well, we can reach so far with our old engine, but with this engine, we can get another 3 floors out of it. And they've got them all documented here. You can look at, see which ones they're talking about.
is there some requirement in the building code that allows us to get up close to these buildings? Is there something that says they can't put landscaping there?
The fire code allows the access to the buildings and everything. However, there is other parts of the city code that requires certain amounts of landscaping in their parking lots. They sort of interfere with each other. But we get our access, the 20-foot wide access, as close as we can get to the building. There's some sides that we can't get to because of the topography or the condition of the ground and everything. So we ask for other conditions such as high-rise kits and things like that to go into the building to help assist with the firefighting in those cases.
Are we in conflict, for example, where they're requiring landscaping and that would block a fire truck?
Well, no, it's usually the parking lot configuration. We can get to the buildings with the fire trucks with that 20-foot access. There's just sometimes these trees they put there in those areas, they look for a 20-foot high tree or something like that. And usually it's 1 tree per that little hole in the parking lot, the little berm or whatever you want to call it, the little area where they put a tree. You got so many spaces, you got another tree, that's the city requirement. They have that. So depending on where you park the truck at, you may be reaching over one of these trees or.
How effective are we with the high rises at Bonita Bay, for example, and Pelican Landing?
Not very, but your ladder trucks are not designed for rescue of a high-rise building of that nature. Usually what we use them for are elevated streams. We'd have to have a 300-foot ladder truck to get out.
Yeah.
Then they just don't make them. Also, to your other question about the moratorium, that's now, anything that has a work order in already, kind of like Sea-Glass, 28-story building is going to be erected out, in the bay. So there's a lot of still building going on, so.
Well, I guess what I'm fishing for is this would be a good argument against raising that limit, wouldn't it?
Maybe, maybe not. It depends. It's up to you guys, not up to me.
Okay.
I mean, whatever you guys decide.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes, Chief, could you explain the ISO rating and the significance of going from a level 3 to a level 2?
Yes, sir. ISO is an insurance service office. They determine the insurance rates, I guess you might say, on every community. What they do is they'll go out and they'll inspect every fire department in the country. Some people don't use ISO, but almost everybody does. I hear out there all the time, oh, not everybody uses ISO. Well, talk to your insurance companies and they do. They'll come out and they'll give you a rating, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. We're at 3 here now. That means to an insurance company, insurance companies they use statistics. They know everything about everything. So they know from history that their losses and their liabilities are a lot less with an ISO insure-rated fire department. It's a 3, for instance, versus an ISO rated 6. They know statistically that they're going to have less losses in that community because they have checked the fire department and they have met all their requirements. Now, going from a 3 to a 2, it's hard to say how much you will save. The residential people will see a savings, but not as much as the businesses. The business community will see a much greater rate in their savings. And I can't say it's going to be 5%, 10%, I don't know. It's all individual. But again, what they do is they come down, and this is a report. And this here will tell you everything you want to know about this fire department. How much training hours we have, what kind of equipment we use, what kind of engines we have, what kind of auto aid we use, mutual aid, the number of employees we have, the location of our fire stations. It's a myriad of different criteria they use, and they put it all together and they come out with this formula, and they'll say, okay, like last time we were a 3, which we were very happy with because that's what we went from a 4 to 3 the previous time. Well, now everyone's going to a 2, and we're like, well, why aren't we a 2? So we know what we need to do to get to a 2. Part of our problem then was because we didn't have auto aid with North Naples. Mutual aid means you have to call them up before they'll come. Now we had trouble before with our communications. We've been fixing that. So now we have automatic aid. So when the tones go off, they automatically come. We automatically go there. So we can use their department as part of our department when it comes to how many firefighters we have on scene, how long it takes to get there, what kind of apparatus are coming to the scene. All these things are calculated with an ISO rating. So it's very important. It's a scorecard for the community to see how good their fire department is. At 3, we're the top 3% of the country. There's not very many people that are 3. I always tell people when we talk, Reedy Creek in Disney World, that's their fire department. They have an ISO rating of 1. And it's not because Disney World has so many fires. It's because it's cheaper for them to maintain an ISO rated 1 fire department than it would be to pay the extra in the premiums for their insurance companies. So for us to get to a 1, we'd have to almost double the manpower here. It's really not. You got to kind of determine the cost factor to the benefit factor. So we're looking at a 2 because we need an apparatus, and if we can we need an extra ladder truck, and the other things we're doing here are pretty simple things that we can do, very little money, we can get to a 2, and it'll help our community out immensely.
Thank you, Deputy Chief.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, Chief, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Deputy
Thank you very
Chairman.
much, Frank.
So, in your packet, you did have some funding options to either, should the board choose to allow me to move ahead with the purchase of the ladder truck. As I was saying before, the actual purchase is going to take, the build time is 13 months. Most likely, it'll be even longer than that, which gives us a few months to outfit the apparatus with all the equipment that we need to have the hose put on it, every piece of equipment that we need to put that truck in service. Right now, we are, if you look at, if you go to your board packet where you have the, just past the budget transfer, it's a email to me from Lisa. When you if you look down, it says, according to the proposal, the estimate for a new apparatus will be approximately. The first one is the 75-foot ladder. If we purchase that before the 31st of March, it's $865,000. After the 31st of March, there's a 3% price increase, which comes out to about $890,000 and $950. Cost with the prepayment discount, that's in addition to the 3%, is $835,000. So basically, the first question I would like to ask the board is direction to move ahead with a 107-footer, 107-foot ladder truck for the district. If I could get that, Chairman, at some point.
We need a, you just want a consensus, or you want to vote?
A consensus would be fine, I believe.
All right, Commissioner Casella?
I think it'd be better to get the 107-foot ladder to help us with the ISO, and the cost is not that much a big difference, so and it has much more uses. I totally agree with the 107.
Commissioner Forbes?
Yeah, if we were going to get it, I'd get the 107.
Commissioner Murphy?
I'll defer judgment to Commissioner Casilla, who's spent quite a number of years in the fire service. You have my consent.
Commissioner McCourt?
It would appear to me that if we're going to buy a ladder truck, that we might as well go to the 107. It appears that's a lot more, it's probably more than we need. Maybe it's more than we need, but it'll give us that much more usable. Now, the only question I have is there $200,000 worth of difference between a 75 and a 107?
I think it was only 60-some thousand,
Like
wasn't it?
60.
68,000, I thought was the only difference that I looked
Yeah,
at when I looked at it.
let's see,
One was
$65,000
Yeah, it was
difference
65 or
between the
68,000.
75.
one was 835,000, and
Yeah.
the other one was 900,000.
I'm sorry, what was the
The
difference?
75 was 835,000.
$65,000
Yeah.
difference, okay.
Yeah.
Is a difference.
So it's not necessarily a totally a bigger unit, truck and so on and so forth. Is it still the same chassis and all that kind of thing?
Yes, they're basically the same chassis. They are a little bit different, but I think they're the same chassis. Are they the same chassis?
Same chassis, 2 inches difference.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
Same
got a longer
chassis, 2
wheelbase,
inches
okay.
difference in the wheelbase. So they
Alright.
have the same turning radius and capabilities as our engine 22, more or less. Yes,
Well, I
sir.
guess when we look at it, we're going to have it for 15 years, and, you know, when you break down the cost for 15 years for $65,000, you're talking, what, another less than about $4,000, $4,500 a year for the 15-year life of it, so I suppose that it probably makes sense to get the bigger one. At first, I wasn't sure because we have neighboring departments that have them that we do response with mutual aid, but, you know, but when I look at it from a 15-year life of the truck, it's really an insignificant cost to get the bigger one, so I'm in favor of that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So we'll move over to the 107-foot truck option. What we will be asking for the board is to allow, prior to March 31st, there's two options. We can either pay an initial fee up front of $300,000, which we do have budgeted to secure our 3%, I guess you'd say 3% status quo without incurring a 3% price increase after March 31st, and then rebudget the remainder during next year's budget. Or to get the cash payment discount, we could take money out of the depreciation replacement for all of our vehicles that we budget every year for the depreciation and additional funding replacements, and therefore pay cash, achieve the advantage of getting the cash discount plus not incurring the 3% upcharge that we will be receiving after March 31st. However, I will note that we would need to rebudget that depreciation cost if we take that money out of the same line item. It would need to be rebudgeted next year.
Mr. Chairman? What kind of total savings are we talking about by paying cash up front?
35,000.
35,000.
Well,
I think.
it's actually, I believe the total price was, what was it?
Before
Yeah.
March 31st, it would be $35,000. After March 31st, it'll be $63,000.
That pays for the differential of the 75 to the 107 by doing that.
Yes,
That
sir.
sounds like it makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, if the money is there, and we just have to do a budget replace for next year, it makes sense to pay for it now and get the best price.
Regardless, we still have to do the
We
budget
gotta-
anyway next.
And we gotta buy it anyway,
Yeah,
so,
so
I
doesn't
mean,
matter
it's
when.
like, if we can save another, whatever it is, $35,000, we're not gonna, or 63,000,
Chief, have you already been through the bidding process here, and we're dealing with real numbers, or?
These are fairly exact numbers. We go through the bidding process through the state bid. We don't customize our trucks. This is all pulled off the state bid from what I understand. Is that correct?
the state has a contract
Yeah.
for all departments. They set up through whatever
Yeah.
different companies, and then,
So there's no competition?
no, there's competition. There's
Assistant
several-
Chief DeWitt can give you the specifics. He's been involved with ordering it.
What this is through state bid contract, you can bid on instead of going through the bid process, the state bids it out on a Pierce Velocity truck with a ladder, comes down with X. What we've asked the 10-8, the manufacturer or the company to do is, we just bought engine 22 a year ago. We said, we want this ladder truck to be of similar specifications for that. Can you give us a ballpark for it? And that's where we come up with these numbers. It may be a little bit more, it may be a little bit less when we get down to the nitty-gritty of the specifics of the truck, like tire size, rim size, the different steering mechanism, because with this ladder truck, it goes with this, it's called a TAC 4 steering. So it may be $2,000 or $3,000 more for this TAC 4 that we didn't get on engine 22, but because of the weight that this ladder truck is going to carry now, it has to have this TAC 4. But this is, I would say, within 1%, 2% of what the actual value of the truck is going to be. The unknown is going to come in a little bit later when we talk about equipment for the truck. We're right now, in the past, we've always replaced the truck and just taken the equipment off of the truck and put it on a new truck. We haven't purchased a new truck and all the equipment to go on that since this station was open. So, I mean, that's going to be a little bit of the unknown, and that's going to be, I would say, a 10% factor in that.
Well, I guess my question is, if the bidding process is over with, there is no bidding, I mean, we don't take these specifications and go out and say, what would you charge, what would you charge, what would you charge?
No, the state's already done that.
The state's already done that, and
Theoretically,
also,
yeah.
theoretically, they've
Yeah.
already done it, they've worked it out we've decided as a department through past practices that we would like to have a Pierce ladder truck. There's only one company that sells Pierce ladder trucks or Pierce fire engines in the state of Florida, and that's 10-8 Equipment. Through it's called the Lake City bid process, Lake City Sheriff's bid process. So they go there and bid it every year. Same way we do with our staff vehicles. We buy those through the bid
And it
process.
makes sense, rather than send somebody around every fire department in the state bidding a truck, they just bid they do a bid process for the state, and then every department can draw on that rather than, and it probably over time saves money, and it certainly saves a lot of time.
And when we're talking about vehicles, that's, when we talk about economies of scale, that's the ultimate economy of scale, is when you're talking about a state bid process. That's where we get all of our vehicles also. It's on the state bid, the price is set, this is what the government agencies are getting once you get onto the state bid, typically.
All right, so now you need a direction of how we're going to pay for this.
Yes,
Want to
sir.
vote on that?
I need a direction of how you want to pay for it, and an authorization for me to move forward with the purchasing process.
All right, we need a motion, assuming, I guess we need to have more discussion about whether we want to pay for the whole thing up front. I mean,
I'll make a motion that we pay for it up front, and we do it by March 31st.
I second that because we're going to have to pay for it either way.
okay, any further discussion?
You're saying we have that cash in reserves?
Yeah, and we just have to replace it with next year's budget, a portion of that to replace what we're dipping into to save the prepay.
I want to be specific here. It's not necessarily reserves, it's a depreciation replacement fund. We
Right.
depreciate out all of our vehicles, so when we need to buy.
It's an
a
imaginary
new one-
number.
But it is cash.
Yes, sir.
It's a cash fund.
Yes, sir, it is.
Because that's the only reason you would depreciate a vehicle, I would think.
Yes, sir.
We don't pay any income tax, so we don't need to worry about that.
Right.
Yes, sir.
All right, all in favor of that motion? Aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, it passes unanimously, so you're good to go. Do we want to jump in here before we move on to the next thing and do the rest of the awards for these guys, so they don't have to sit here? They look bored.
Yeah, who's here? Who's got 10 years? It's,
Who wasn't recognized? I know-
Firefighter Jones, Lieutenant Chikas,
Yeah,
and Rob Schmidt, come on up front, and firefighter Butcher. Booker. People call him all kinds of different names. You guys
they were
stand
out
up
on a
front.
call, I guess, so.
They missed my ad lib, so I wanted to thank you, gentlemen.
Congratulations.
Like I was saying, you're still new guys to some of us guys who've been here a while, but
Congratulations. The first 10's the toughest. I was trapped.
I didn't do anything.
They all 10-year guys want to get together?
Yeah. Since you're all
What is it?
They all got hired together, so
Still pretend you like it.
figure by now, you really got to hate each other, right?
I really like each other.
All right, 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Just don't want to know what mustache.
Thanks again, gentlemen.
Good job, guys.
All right, next item is, this one amused me a little bit, to be honest with you. Our annual fire sprinkler inspection report for all stations in the budget transfer number 2.
Explain this one.
I'll let the
It-
fire
it's-
marshal.
It's pretty bad when we fail our own sprinkler inspections. I don't know. It's just-
I
I'm
can
just
feel-
saying.
I can feel like our customers out in the district when this happens to them. Every year you go through, see, we're required by, the Florida Fire Prevention Code, get an annual inspection of our fire stations, just like all the other customers who have fire sprinkler systems. And so, same as them, you go through several years of not having any problems, and all of a sudden, like, wow, we got a problem. This is a big problem. That's why we bring it to your attention. 4 out of the 5 backflows need to be replaced out of these stations. When I asked what was the problem with the backflows, they couldn't conduct the test because they couldn't close the inlet and outlet valves completely in order to do a test on these backflows. It could contribute to the type of water that we have out there, because if you look at the backflows, it has that white film on the test cocks and all that, so like your plumbing at home, it could be wearing out on the inside. The other things, just some maintenance or some things that were missed that need to be added. The cost is what it is. We got 2 other bids to go along with the cost of the original repair, and you see one of them was pretty close to the original repair, and the other one was way out there. And so that's how all I can report on it is what we have.
Well, basically, you're telling us it's got to be done.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like we
Just
can
like-
say, we can vote this down and say,
Well-
no, you're not going to do it, and then somebody's going to come around and write you
And
up.
one of the things I do with our customers out there is that they'll say, well, hey, I tell them I can't afford that. And I say, well, if you can't afford it, let's work with you on doing it. Give us a time frame of how you want to achieve it. You know, give us something in writing like, hey, on this date, we're going to start the project and we're going to complete it by this date. That's getting code compliance, you know, working with somebody. In this case, we can go ahead and just pay it all at once, or if you want to do the same thing, you know, but suggestion is.
And this is an unbudgeted item.
Yeah, that's correct, because unfortunately, our inspection came that time of the year when we're going through the budget process. They did our inspections of September. I didn't get reports until after we went through the budget process, everything being approved, and then that's when I got hit with the bad news.
All right, you want to throw the numbers out here again? I know we have them, but for the record,
Okay.
I don't know who's going to do that.
I will, yes, sir. It's from building repair and maintenance, $18,150.
Need a motion to approve this.
Including the budget transfer, which is from capital improvement to building repair and maintenance.
So moved.
You
We're looking for a second. I'll
you
second
need a
that.
second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Now, if I can add some more things, there's some I've been telling my customer, because there's right now a lot of buildings are reaching their 20-year mark, and with the 20-year mark with the fire sprinkler code is that at 20 years you have an option either replacing all the sprinkler heads in the building, or you take a percentage of getting tested, and then it's every 10 years after that you continue doing the percentage of what's being tested, or just at one time do the 20-year, then it buys you another 20 years before you have to do it again. And that's what the code reads. So a lot
Well,
of
what's your recommendation on that?
a lot of our customers, I'm saying, just go ahead and replace all of them, because they have to pay the money over and over again every 10 years. You know, doing it one time, that gives you another 20 years.
Now, would that be something you're looking to do now, or do in the in
Well,
next
one of our
year's budget?
stations is reaching that 20-year mark that I know of.
Do you think we could wait till next year's budget to do
We
that?
probably could.
I think that would be
Yeah.
more prudent, in my opinion. I don't know how the rest of the
And
board
that,
feels,
that's
but
station number 3. That's the oldest one we have.
I'm not a
in our
huge
state.
fan of spending money that's not in the budget, and
Right.
I think that if we plan to spend it, and when you're working on next year's budget and you know you have to do that, I think that's the time to
Right.
present that, but I don't know how everybody else feels.
I have a question. What percentage sampling are you looking at?
The code doesn't call out a percentage of the sampling, so we just try to work with them on what percentage, you know, just pull a sampling of all areas, you know, just a sample from certain areas, because there's 3 areas. There might be the first floor, the second floor, and the most remote area. Pull a sampling from there.
Is there a percentage that's unacceptable or something that you're
They
trying
don't-
to achieve?
They don't put a number on that. That's the one thing the code doesn't do.
So, I mean, is everybody?
No, I agree with waiting and getting into next year's budget and do it all at once.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you think that we're okay till then, and
Yeah.
it seems like we are,
Just over a period of time, we'll have to add like the other stations as they were built, you know, like Station 2, and then, 4, then 1, and then 5B, whenever it comes into play. But Station 3 is the oldest out of all the sprinklers out
Do you have how soon the other ones are going to be, 20 years, do you know?
Well, we moved into Station 4 in '06. '04 was Station 2, '06, I think, was this station, and 1 was about the same time.
Mhm.
So it was, and then not too long after that was Station 5.
the Station 3 is the oldest, that,
Yes. It's,
That was 93.
was it 93? I thought it was
Yeah.
a little bit later than that. 94? Okay, I was thinking 95, 90, okay.
It was at 93. I got hired for that
Okay.
station.
well, I think that if we can make it till next year's budget, that would be the best thing to do on that. So I think we'll just move on. Obviously, if we have an emergency situation and then we have to do something, then we deal with that at the time, but I think that's something to put into the budget for next year and
That's-
just get it done.
And that's the only thing I know that's a cost thing, because, like, for instance, the fire alarms, like, right now, we got 2 stations replacing batteries in, and that's just normal maintenance and repair that we do,
Right.
and from those things.
How much is that station to change the heads?
I'm not sure how much it would be. We'd have to, I would get a proposal just to put it in the budget, just to find out.
The other question is, at some point, I know it's way on the back burner now, but at one point, we had looked at doing a redo or a tear down on that building, and it wouldn't make any sense to me at this point
True.
To put any more money into that building if we're going to do something to repair or fix or build new or whatever eventually is going to have to happen there. It would be silly to put money into it and then
That's true.
and find out that we wasted it. So I think that's something to worry about another day.
Okay.
Next item,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
You made an offhand comment about the water. Is that for real, or is that just a...
Well, I know, personally, being on the type of water we have in this district, sometimes the insides of your toilets and the bowl and the tank and all that, you have to replace those valves quite often. The float valves, the flapper, that's the same thing. That wear and tear is going on in that backflow out there. If you go outside to our backflow and you look at the petcocks on the outside of where they do the test from, you see this white film and everything else of the water corrosion or buildup that takes place inside these.
Is that true of the sprinklers, too?
That is one of the reasons why they do the sampling in 20 years. Yeah, you could have that corrosion build up inside those sprinkler pipes, too. One of the things we've learned from the utility, the smaller the size of the underground piping, the builds up on the inside quicker and everything. So that could be a 4-inch pipe, but in 10 or 15, 20 years, it could be reduced down on the inside quite a bit. So the larger diameter undergrounds we have out there are lasting longer. The problems we ran into is on the beach out there. We've had some underground lines that had to replace from 4-inch to 6 or 8-inch for the fire pumps, because over a period of time, the inside of the pipe got crustation inside of it because of that water and everything.
Well, I won't prolong this, but I'd like to talk to you later about that, because I've had a similar problem, and I kind of got the same answer, like maybe it's the water. And I talked to the water people, we had it sampled, we had all that kind of thing. We didn't get any,
Yeah.
any satisfaction out of it, but anyway, I'll chat with you later. Thank you.
The little information,
microphone.
a little information, the water in Florida, this area is acidic, where most water that you're used to dealing with more up north is more got lime, and it's basic. This is acidic. And so the reason hot water heaters last less down here is the hotter the water or the hotter the acid, the quicker it eats. So hot water will go through make a water heater in Florida rust out quicker. So that's what it is. It's acidic.
It'll also eat your copper pipes away.
You're not
Which is the
kidding.
gold standard in plumbing up north, will be eaten up in about 20 to 24 years, depending on what type copper you got.
That's very correct. All right, next item on the agenda is surplus asset Marine 21. Apparently, the 2 happiest days of a boat owner's life is the day he buys it and the day he sells it. And apparently, we're not getting that second happy day. So what are we going to do?
No, as you know, our efforts to put it out for bid, when we did put out for bid, to have anyone actually bid for our minimum bid did not take place, so we still have the vessel. Our idea was to re-advertise it for a lower bid price, about we were anticipating or projecting about $1,500 or $1,500 to put it out for bid, to at least try to ascertain that amount for that boat. There are some other options, trade-in we were talking about.
I was curious to hear what, I know I'm opening the door asking Deputy Scott anything. But,
I'm gonna turn it over to him. He's well prepared
Is
to
it,
answer any questions.
Is it something, I know you're talking about getting another throwable, whatever, okay, rescue boat. Is this something from where we sit, would we be better off trading that at the time when you replace what you want to get and maybe be able to dispose of it that way and get something off? Or are we better off to just sell this for whatever we can and then buy the other thing outright? And that's in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, my opinion would just be to sell it for whatever we can get, because at the age of the boat and the condition it's in, if we could probably get someone to take it on a trade, but I don't really see it of being any real value.
Right.
In other words, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
They'll just up the price to show that they're taking it off our hands. And I've kind of pursued this a little bit, and there's not a lot of interest out there
Okay.
in anybody taking it just because of the age.
Point well taken. So what do you want to do?
Get some authorization from the board to attempt to put it out to bid again for the minimum bid of whatever the board's choosing, and I will defer to Deputy
Did we get
Chief
any
Scott.
bids on it before?
No,
Not even lowball bids? Nothing?
no, we didn't get anything.
What were we asking?
$3,000.
3,000.
3,000?
Yeah. There may have been interested parties had the number been lower, just from talking in the industry.
So do we go to
other
2,000
agencies.
and, or, you know, or do we just make it the highest bid? So instead of putting a limitation on it, we just put the highest bid, and all bids subject to, you know, we can turn them down. So
Yes, sir.
rather than put a minimum bid or you know, whatever, we just put it out there, let those same people look at it. I know the county forestry was interested in it. I know there was some people who wanted us to give it to them. So, I mean, my recommendation, and that's up to you guys, but my recommendation would be to just put it out there to bid and see if there's any interest. And, you know, if
How
somebody...
are we advertising it?
We were advertising in multiple
I'm
papers, I believe. What did we advertise that?
It was in Naples Daily.
Naples Daily News,
Oh, okay.
you know, and other intergovernmental agencies.
Do we ever
Knew
use the
about
boat
it.
trader?
I don't think we have.
Okay, and the only reason I say that, and anybody that has a boat and they're looking to buy a boat, the boat traders are kind of a Bible for people looking to sell or buy boats, used boats. And it's not that expensive to advertise, put a picture in there, and it runs for, I don't know, 2 weeks or, and then maybe that's just something to look at, but
Yes, sir.
that works more when you're putting a price, but I guess you could always just put something in there, best offer, you know, but, you know, obviously if nobody was interested in it, $3,000, it's probably not worth much, so. Are we good with just putting it up there for bid
Yeah,
and
no
see
problem.
what we can get? We can always turn the bid down. We don't have to accept it. You know, if somebody offers $100 for it, we can turn it down. But I think it might, there might be a few more people dip their toe in if they can get it in a, you know,
Is that a motion, sir?
want to make a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So we're done with that. Okay. Chief Daigle report.
Yes, sir. I do have two items. First one is the mural that the city would like to get involved with painting on the side of our Station 1. I did relay to Arlene Hunter and City Manager Carl Schwing that we were concerned about the status of the brick and how painting it would essentially, you know, cause any issues for us or cause an issue for us as far as returning that brick to its original status. I brought the idea about putting a faux cover on front of the brick so the artist would be able to paint on the faux cover. Mr. Schwing brought it to Art and Public Places, and they had relayed to him that if they really can't paint it on the brick, they're not very interested in doing it. But it also was expressed to me by the city manager that they would really enjoy having that piece on our fire station and would hope that it would be around for, you know, longer than us. And that was their sentiments. So I wanted to get some direction from the board on if the board would like to proceed with working with the city to put a mural up or to basically not move forward with the idea.
Commissioner Casella?
Joe, did you happen to say that they would guarantee the status of taking care of it to maintain it throughout its life?
They have a 3-year contract to maintain it. That's as far as I know, the contract that they have to maintain it. We haven't got into any negotiations about how long they would like to maintain it, but the 3-year contract is what they are entering into with the artist at this point.
Well, you know, my feeling about that is if they feel it's going to be there till long after we are, then they should agree to maintain it as long as it's there,
That's my next point.
right?
Yes.
And, you know, if, it's 3 years, I don't know, it's a nightmare. We've had this discussion before, getting paint off a brick is impossible, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Chief Daigle and I went and looked at the building, and that is glazed brick. And glazed brick is not something you want to paint. It'll stick real good to the mortar, but it will not stick well to the
Yeah,
glaze.
I'm not against the mural. I think the mural would be awesome. I think it's a
Yeah.
perfect spot for it, but I'm hesitant to paint brick and only have somebody else be responsible for 3 years, and for the rest of its life, we're gonna be sitting there because we won't be able to take it off the brick. So every year, we're gonna have firemen out there touching up, doing their artistry
With a
work.
toothbrush.
I just don't, it just seems like an awful slippery slope to me. I don't know.
It would seem to me that the artist is agreeing to maintain it for 3 years. If the city would accept the responsibility from that point forward, then we might have something. But the city has to guarantee that somebody's going to maintain that at their expense, not at our expense.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
How many other buildings are doing this, do we know?
That I do not know. I do know that they do have artwork up in certain areas in the downtown area, and this is just the one particular that I'm aware of that they want.
My suggestion would be to take a wait-and-see attitude. I mean, we certainly don't want to, we want to cooperate if in fact, a lot of other buildings are going to do it. But if we're the only one,
Yeah, but we may be the only one with the glazed brick. Most brick is not glazed.
Yeah.
It's got a face that will absorb some paint.
I have the same phobia about painting brick. I don't like brick painted.
Glazed is the worst you can paint.
Well, it'd be like painting the side of your house, painting a picture on the side of your stucco on your home, and then 3 years from now, trying to get it off. I mean, it's like, you know, at least with stucco, you could paint the
Paint
whole
over
thing.
it, yeah.
But
Brick,
with
you
the
can't.
brick, you
Once it's
can't
gone,
do
it's
that.
gone.
And it's a lifetime commitment, and,
Even if you sandblasted it.
right.
it just
And then you
brick.
wreck the brick. So,
Yeah.
you know, I told you the story about growing up, the mason, you know.
Mr. Chairman.
You knock the brick out and you replace the brick. And I don't ever want to have whoever's sitting in these seats down the road or sitting in those seats down the road going, what the hell were those guys thinking? Because I think we could make a big mistake here.
Yeah, unless they guarantee in writing that they're going to take care of it for the life of it, then I'm not interested.
Does that seem to be the general consensus,
Yeah.
that we don't want to take on the obligation if they want to commit to always taking care of it and always making sure that it looks good and it stays repainted and they incur that cost, then they're more than welcome to use our wall. I mean, we're part of the city, it's a perfect location, and I think we all feel that way. It'd be, you know, but they have to, I don't think we need to take any responsibility financially to maintain it.
So what I'm hearing from the board is that if I speak with the city manager and say, well, the board is interested, however, it needs to be a contract or a
Begrudgingly.
term for the life,
Begrudgingly interested.
for the life of the painting and the brick.
Correct.
And honestly, I think we all need to discuss this so that when you go in there and you talk to them about it, that it's not, I don't think it should be negotiable. And I hope you guys feel the same way, because they either agree to take care of it
Or we don't get it.
forever, or we vote no to not put a mural there.
Mr. Chairman, forever would be the life of that wall.
Yeah. Obviously, if we ever expanded that building or knocked that wall down or whatever, you know, obviously that would go without saying, but as long as that lot remains the same and that building remains the same size, and they want to put a mural there, they should be responsible for it. Otherwise, find another wall.
Exactly.
Any consensus?
I believe so.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Wait a minute, what are we consenting?
Just that they, if we let them do it, they have to be responsible financially for it for the life of it. In a contract.
Good luck collecting that.
Yeah,
In a
well,
contract.
Well, their other option is to say, and, you know, then we're gonna be lousy neighbors and lousy partners, is to say, no, you're not painting on our building, but, you know, I came up with the idea of putting a brick facade on the building and painting that, and they can get a brick facade that'll match that and look the same, and nobody will know the difference. The only difference is it'll stick out probably a quarter of an inch, and nobody's gonna notice that, and I believe it would be cheaper for everybody concerned to do that, and then if you didn't like the painting, or if you wanted to change it, you pull that down, you put another facade up there, and you paint a different picture, you know? To me, that was pretty simple, and you wouldn't do any damage to the brick, but apparently...
I was going to suggest a similar idea. We did that up in the city of Pontiac in conjunction with the art group and all this kind of stuff. But instead of painting the buildings, because a lot of them are old buildings with brick that's very, you know, fragile, we actually hung pictures on the side of the wall, or murals that were pictures on the side of the wall, so we could take them down, you know, or change them.
And
I
you
believe
you could still do a background of brick in the framing, doing that without ever, it would still look like it was part of the wall, but apparently there was some pushback on that from the artist. He didn't want to do that, so I don't know. But
It is my understanding that it wasn't that, they were concerned about the incurred cost and, for lack of a better term, the hassle of putting that faux wall up, per se.
sometimes a couple $1,000s spent today is going to save tens of thousands of dollars down the road, so.
We might want to incur the expense of the facade just to protect our building.
Well, I wouldn't open that door yet, but just only because I think if they're going to do it and we're going to supply the wall, then and the city wants to do that. You know, if we were going to put our own mural up there and a firefighter thing or whatever, and we wanted to do that, then it would be our expense. But if the city wants to use that, and honestly, I mean, we're good partners with the city. We have a great relationship with them and want to keep that. It just, again, goes back to the concerns. I think every one of us up here are this close to voting no on it, and we're still trying to be friendly here, so.
Exactly.
Yes, sir, I just want to reiterate, life of the building, life of the brick, and I'll bring it back to the board should they agree to something like that.
Thank you.
Because your early retirement, when we're replacing all the brick on that wall, is not going to be pretty.
No. Okay, on to the next. I did want to discuss Commissioner Forbes's resignation from the board and moving on to a different career in another political environment. But along with that, I would
admire his
also
courage.
I would also like to just outline a processes of doing so. What I gather is that we can advertise the position coming up here shortly and have a special meeting for interviews with an appointment in April. In other words, if we could advertise the position during March or the beginning of March, take in the applications, send it to the board have a chance to review, and then schedule interviews after, because I know at the last board meeting, we didn't want to do anything until Commissioner Forbes actually vacated the seat. So after the final meeting with Commissioner Forbes, then we conduct the interviews and have, should the board desire, have the vote on who or if to replace Commissioner Forbes in the interim until the next election in April.
What's the, I forget when we did it the last time, what's the legal process for the advertising period and how long you have to advertise it and how many days? And I can't, I'm sure there's a statute, but I can't remember what it was.
I'm not sure how long it has to be advertised.
Yeah, we're not sure. We'll investigate that.
Yeah,
but I
let's
believe
make
it's
sure that
for-
we do it right.
Yes,
I know the last time we did it, when Commissioner Lyles
Yes.
stepped down, I know there was a process, but I don't, and you guys handled the process, but I don't remember exactly right now what it was, so I think we just make sure that we do that correctly.
We'll review the former process and try to emulate what we did in the past. Yeah.
So you want to advertise it for the month of March and then start doing interviews in April?
Yes, sir. And we could do that anytime, and we could set up a date for board availability, just sometime prior to the April meeting, so the board will have an opportunity to determine, maybe after the interviews or prior to the interviews, whether or not you want to fill the seat, and whether or not there's a candidate that you'd like to put into the.
Well, I guess that's all going to depend on how many people apply. You know,
Yes, sir.
If there's 2 or 3 people, or if there's 20, it's going to make a difference to how we do the interviews, so I guess that sounds good. We need a motion to do that?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to proceed to replace, with the interviews and such for the replacement of Commissioner Lowen. Commissioner Forbes.
I'm not going to second that.
I'm getting rid of you. I tried.
I'll second Commissioner Casilla's motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That is all I have. Thank you, gentlemen.
Assistant Chief DeWitt, you have anything? Okay, and you've already done your thing. You got anything else you want to add? Deputy Chief Scott? Wow. Public comment?
Yes, Alex Grant, 11851 East Terry Street, and by the way, former volunteer here for 11 years or so. Anyway, one thing I noticed, we were talking about the ladder truck. Correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there $1 million authorized for 4 ambulances at some time, some years ago, which was in the budget, and then I believe you took out $465,000 or so for engine number 22, the new engine at station number 2 that you just got within the last few months or year or so. So that leaves, what, $565,000 in that kitty? Why not use that $560,000 or $500,000 to help pay for your 107-foot ladder truck? Suggestion. Also, in the same vein, we had, if I remember correctly, reading the Tri-Data report by Harold Cohen, who was hired by this department in 2009, he did not support or did not advise us to go into the ambulance business. This was in 2009. But because of previous commissioners, and I don't know who was there in 2009 as a commissioner from here, but anyway, the commission at that time decided to go full blast for the ambulance service. Now, we had spent taxpayers' money, considerable amount of money, in another consultant who refuted the consultant, the expert consultant from Arlington, Virginia, who was a better expert than the guy that refuted on the ambulance, who said, yeah, go ahead with the ambulance service, whatever. Anyway, then we hired attorneys, we had legal costs. I don't know how much money we spent all this. Then there was a denial, then there was an appeal, then there was a denial again, then we went to court, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars we spent on this, and for basically having a no vote in which
30 seconds, Alex.
which was anticipated. I mean, if this was private industry, somebody would have been on, that would be, have been on the board would have been fired. And you wonder why Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders is such a following, that's it, incompetence.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Motion to adjourn?
So move.